It began on a set of rock canyons called the Hammers, where the quest to become king of these trails evolves into America's toughest off-road race. Drivers dedicating every waking hour to improving one of mankind's greatest inventions, forging new ways to solve old problems. A shift in thinking sparked an industry change, the ignition of a whole new sport. Test it until it fails. Break it to make it stronger, faster, more capable. When the dust settles, only the strongest emerge to be crowned king of the Hammers. This time on World of X Games, the Toyo Tires Desert Invitational, presented by Monster Energy. Johnson Valley, California. The Mojave Desert. Thousands have gathered for the 2019 King of the Hammers. With over 350 race teams, it's difficult for newcomers to discern the event's humble beginnings.
So Dave Cole and Jeff Knoll had this crazy idea to run all these rock trails in one day. And you know, like I said, back then it was just kind of almost unheard of. But you know.
Eric Miller knows this event's history well. He's raced and won multiple classes.
They got together and, you know, called all their friends and told them the idea, and everybody was like, that's nuts, right? So they were able to scrape together like 12 guys. It was called the OG-13 because one guy didn't show, and run this crazy race all for a cooler of beer. That's all it was. And you know, they went out. I think they had like, you know, skateboard helmets on. I don't even know if they had that. No window nets, nothing. I mean, probably half the cars didn't have fire extinguishers on them. But they did it. It was the first one.
The Ultra 4 community has now grown from a single race with nothing but pride on the line to include 4 different races over the course of the week that pay out more than $300,000 in cash prizes. Anticipation is high this year for the addition of a new class, the T1 Unlimited Desert Trucks, known for dominating the prestigious Baja 1000. Off-road Hall of Famer and 2018 Baja 1000 winner Cameron Steele has attended the King of the Hammers a number of times over the last decade as a host of the live coverage. But this time he'll be racing his T1 Desert Truck in the brand new Toyo Tires Desert Invitational. Although T1 trucks are made solely for speed through open desert, event owner Dave Cole is giving him a tour of one of the original Hammer trails. A rock section where the 4400 Unlimited class will be racing during the main King of the Hammers event at the end of the week.
Two up there. There's one on the other side of that rock. This will be the main attraction, or the main way up. And what's funny is I've heard a lot of guff over the years about how King of the Hammers has changed the trails and made them harder or easier depending on who's arguing about it. But I haven't been up here in about 3 years, but this is exactly how we used to run this 15 years ago.
So you look at this and you see a trail?
100%, yeah. But this is technical, so what'll happen is if you get the back of the car to that side, the front end will wash over and the rear will definitely wash over, and you're gonna be hung on that rock with the rear axle housing.
And I think you can pretty clearly see that there's been some metal banking this part right here.
I think the T1 class is a little bit polished up. You know, we've been around big races for a lot of years. Many of us have seen or been involved with some kind of factory involvement. So we understand that polish and level of expectation from that. And I think that the King of the Hammers is a very raw and core off-road enthusiast event, but I wouldn't say there's any real disparity between the two. We're all just racers at the same time. I mean, looking at what Jason Shear and Eric Miller and the whole group of Ultra 4 racers bring to the table is pretty incredible.
It's a coming of age for the sport of Ultra 4 and the King of the Hammers. a far cry from the early days.
Dave said, you know, this is going to be something, mark my words. And he kind of saw, he had the vision, right? He's a visionary. He saw the potential of it. And we're sitting here today, and I've never seen the lake bed behind me more full.
Desert racing has been around for half a century, but a new chapter will be written at King of the Hammers.
The T1 class is stoked to be here involved with King of the Hammers. I mean, Ultra 4 runs an incredible race. The series has a lot of respect. I've been around it for a long time, so I knew exactly what we were getting into by committing to this. But when you combine the fact that it's only the T1s, there's no other classes mixed in, we don't have to pass people in a lap race situation in smaller cars or lesser cars. And we also have a big purse on the line with $100,000 to the winner. And you know, really the TV show is incredible as well with ABC. So I think those three things together have brought out the best of the best in the T1 class. And I think the field's pretty stacked, and it's going to be an incredible race.
Every winner in the last decade of Baja 1000 racing is here to compete for the largest purse in off-road history. Welcome to the 2019 King of the Hammers and the Toyo Tires Desert Invitational presented by Monster Energy. For the first time ever, the T1 Unlimited trucks will run a 280-mile desert race here in Johnson Valley. This race has attracted the cream of the crop. It's a stacked field.
BJ Baldwin's someone you got to pay attention to because he's so fast. He's been doing a lot of technology changes to his truck, and I think he's really keyed up to get a win. Bryce Menzies is one of the more younger faces of the sport, but he's been very successful with a lot of wins both in short course and desert racing.
Cameron Steele holds his competitors in high regard, but he himself is one of the best and the most recent winner of the famous Baja 1000.
Of course, there's the McMillan family. They come from a desert lineage of off-road racing. It's pretty amazing. Andy is definitely a favorite when it comes to any off-road race because he's fast and smart. And then his cousins, Luke and Dan, they don't have the results as much as Andy does, but Luke's been on the podium a couple times this year. And frankly, I think Luke's one of the best drivers in off-road. So I think he's someone you definitely got to factor in.
Racing is in the McMillan's blood, and it shows.
I need the race packets for 23's packet.
23's packet?
23 and 83, because I'm going to look at both preload numbers.
We did a spring adjustment.
So this is post Baja 1000. This is post King of the Hammers. It doesn't push all the way up, but it just has a little bit of a bunny hop in the back, where it's just like, it just needs a little less spring to make it just more settle. And I think we do a 1/4 inch to make sure we feel that difference.
They approach the sport with meticulous attention to detail and leave no stone unturned in their quest to be the fastest.
Crossover ring. So now I want to take more ring out.
Get it to settle down.
Yeah, we're here at the McMillan Race Shop, and this is where the 23 and 83 truck get prepped, along with pre-runners and razors and all kinds of fun desert toys that our family's been playing with for over 30 years.
Luke and Dan McMillan are sons of 5-time overall Baja winner Mark McMillan.
Racing is a hobby for us. We work to go racing, but really this is almost like a full-time job for us, especially with all these races coming up so quickly. You know, it is like a full-time job, but it doesn't pay.
While they joke that racing is a hobby, they're part of a multi-million-dollar program that's had more than a taste of success.
that bottom out issues with the 550.
It's a hobby, but when it's time to go racing, it's game time. It's serious.
It takes a lot of teamwork and hard work and dedication from all of us, and it's a big group effort, and that's what McMillan has been all about for years, is you know, being a family, being a team, and working together, and going out and trying to win races.
There's 8 full-time guys here that are working on these things, and this is their job to get these trucks ready for us to go 130, 40 miles an hour across the desert. And as you can see, these things are not cheap, so we take them very, very seriously, and we prep them very, very well, and we put the right stuff on here. We're doing the quality control, we're managing what's going on, we're checking parts, we're checking for cracks. There's really no room for error because things can happen really, really quick.
Even for a family of veteran racers like the McMillans, the King of the Hammers is a golden opportunity.
Dave called and extended the invite, told us about the purse that was on the line, and I wasn't going to pass up that opportunity to win $100,000. So, you know, I'm just excited to be out here. It's pretty crazy. It's my first time ever being out here. I haven't been out here for the Hammers race before. So just seeing all the people and all the vendors and how big, you know, Hammertown really is, it's pretty jaw-dropping. It's pretty cool.
As one of the most successful desert racers ever, Andy McMillan will certainly be a top contender in this race. This episode of World of X Games is brought to you by Toyo Tires and Monster Energy. Welcome back to the 2019 King of the Hammers and the Toyo Tires Desert Invitational, presented by Monster Energy.
So I've been here since Thursday afternoon. We set up the whole pit, everything. We're just, you know, kind of looking around, seeing what this all was about. And, you know, as the days went by, more people started showing up, and everyone that's been here, including Dave, we're like, oh man, right now we're empty. And every time I come down the hill pre-running, I see like thousands of people already. I'm like, this is insane. They're like, oh no, just wait till like Wednesday, Thursday. It's like 30,000 more people. I'm like, no, where are they gonna fit? Like the lake bed is full now.
For the most accomplished off-road race programs in the world and their sponsors, the week of attention directed at Johnson Valley, California is a valuable opportunity.
It takes a lot of shuck and jive to become a professional racer, right? Full time. I mean, you have to deal with sponsors, you have to go to all the races, you got to be in front of the media, now you have to be social media. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
The T1 class is an integral part of off-road history, but they haven't raced in California for decades.
T1 was started as an unlimited class back in 1994, and so it's had a big run of unlimited racing. It kind of got smaller, but all of a sudden there's been this huge boom time.
The drivers are competing for the biggest prize in off-road racing history, proof that the T1s are back in the limelight.
We've all been watching King of the Hammers, and we started hearing from a few drivers that would come over and race the rock crawlers and stuff. Wow, Dave's got a really great event going, and it was growing and growing and growing.
One of the T1 drivers responsible for spreading the word is off-road Hall of Famer Rob McCachran, who spent the last few years racing Ultra 4's 4400 Unlimited class with legend Greg Adler.
You know, with everything that I do with off-road racing, you know, and I can tell you, for me, that if I can just finish this race, that is more difficult than finishing the Baja 1000 or winning it.
You know, Rob McCachran is probably the greatest off-road driver of all time. I think he has the stats to prove it. He won 3 Baja 1000s in a row recently. And he's been racing out here at Ultra 4 with Greg Adler over the last couple years, so I think he has a really good chance at being very successful here.
I've been coming here running the Ultra 4 race over the years, and you know, it's neat to have the other guys that run in the same class as me with these big trucks come here and race too, so get to witness all this, the experience, all the people. It's such an amazing thing.
T1 has been around for a long time, but in the last 3 or 4 years, it really developed into a more professional sport. It's more competitive, the racing's closer than ever, and we've been looking for more and more platforms to expose what we do and show the world what we do. And when we showed up at King of the Hammers, you know, half of us were skeptical.
In addition to rockier, rougher terrain than the T1s usually encounter, they'll compete for starting position in a 20-mile qualifier, just minutes before the main race.
It's going to be exciting. You know, this is a kind of a weird, different deal. You know, qualify in the morning, and then when the last truck finishes qualifying this morning, we're going to start the race in the order that they qualified.
Usually you have a day prior, even months prior to qualify for a race. But this setup, we qualify and we have literally maybe 30 minutes.
It's definitely unique, and you don't want to push too hard and risk breaking your truck because you don't have a lot of time to fix it before the race starts. The course is no joke. It's pretty treacherous out there. You know, where it's fast, it's really fast, but there's some gotchas out there. And then where it gets slow, it's really slow and technical. A lot of rocks, a lot of exposed rocks, huge rocks off to the side of the course. So really, I think the biggest competition is actually the racetrack.
While most drivers are unfamiliar with the terrain at King of the Hammers, Bryce Menzies raced in the UTV class as a pre-run for the T1 race.
The UTV race was insane. The rock stuff, the desert stuff. Probably the most fun I've ever had racing in my life because it was just so slow and so different from what I'm used to. So I think doing that race will help me a ton just because we already got to see the desert stuff. We know what it's about. We know how the course is going to deteriorate a ton at the end. So gives us a little bit of idea of how smooth we got to be, how we got to keep the truck together, and then we'll go from there.
Since its birth in 2007, the King of the Hammers has grown from a single race with just 12 competitors to 4 main events featuring 350 drivers, catering to every tier of off-road culture. To attract unlimited truck teams, King of the Hammers had to reach a certain level of maturity. Now, both sides benefit from a partnership that's been years in the making.
Monday night, they told us about this like night thing, craziness. We went and I just sat there for like 2 hours just like watching people wreck their cars and try to go up, and it's fairly narrow and like there's not much places to go. And people were just stuck, and then another car would go over their wheel and hit their doors, and they start yelling at each other, but they still keep going and get stuck and more stuck, and it was insane. I had a blast, and I was like, man, these guys are for real. I don't know if I'd take my personal car up that, but those guys are loving it, and it's super fun watching it all night, and I'm definitely coming next year.
After the break, racers compete for their starting position at the Toyo Tires Desert Invitational. It's race day at the Toyo Tires Desert Invitational, presented by Monster Energy. As a prelude to the 280-mile main event, drivers will run a short qualifying lap to determine the starting order. It's an unusual format for the T1s that will play an important part in each racer's strategy.
We're going to qualify one truck every 2 minutes, and right after qualifying, we're going racing, which is a unique setup. We haven't done that before as far as I know. So for me, I think it's cool because people aren't going to be able to work on their trucks really that much between qualifying and racing, which means you can smash as hard as you want, but if you screw something up, you're going to have to deal with it in the race.
Have the world's best desert racers here today. It's unbelievable the amount of talent that's here for this first time event.
First off the line is Andy McMillan.
You can already see some of the speed difference between what we saw yesterday here with the Everyman Challenge and these incredible trucks. They're going to do this infield prologue section here. Obviously, we're going to be interesting to see. I mean, Andy's already can see him throwing it sideways up there in the corner. But he's Andy McMillan from the legendary McMillan Racing family. Love to have him here from San Diego. There's 3 trucks with McMillan names on them.
For some teams, the qualifier is an advantage. For the last decade, T1 trucks have relied almost exclusively on the simplicity and reliability of two-wheel drive. But Justin Matney, Bryce Menzies, and Brett Serapis are taking advantage of the improved traction and acceleration offered by all-wheel drive platforms. Other drivers have noticed.
Justin Matney, who's here racing in his four-wheel drive, he won the Parker race a couple years ago and kind of opened everyone's eyes to, okay, four-wheel drive's here. He won the race. He was the fastest. It's a fast truck. You know, I think that you're going to see more of them. And over the last couple of years, there have been a lot more build. There's been more technology implemented into the trucks, and they're becoming a lot more reliable, which is why I'm, moving forward and stepping into that. Bryce Menzies is here in an all-wheel drive truck. Brett Serapis, who just won Parker's, here in an all-wheel drive truck. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in qualifying and the race, and we'll see who wins.
Whether all-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, each racer must strike a balance between setting a fast time and saving their truck for the punishment still to come in the main race.
So we got Rob McCackren getting ready to get off the line here. For those who don't know, Rob McCackren is in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. He is truly considered probably the greatest off-road race driver of all time.
Be interesting to see Rob out there because he's a short course driver, and there's quite a bit of short course here. So getting your speed right off the bat is going to be a big benefit to get a good time on this qualifying loop. Dolly's always fast, and sometimes, he's too fast. So he's either a win or something happens. So Dolly is definitely one to keep your eye on. If he has a clean race, he will take this.
So far, Abdali Lopez is holding the fastest time, but still to come are some big names.
So we have Justin Matney about to take off the line. He's in the four-wheel drive at this race, though. He just finished with the two-wheel drive. So it's going to be interesting to see that the four-wheel drive trucks, once again, they're going to come out on top, I think.
This section of course is faster than most desert races, with top speeds of nearly 140 miles per hour and an average speed of 71 miles per hour.
Out of Las Vegas again, the legendary Herbst team. Troy Herbst raced in the days and with the traditional red Turtle Herbst color. Our next driver up is Brett Serapis. His family's been racing for a long time too, and this is a unbelievable brand new Mason-built all-wheel drive truck.
So next we have Cameron Steele coming off the line. He is he going to pull off his third win in a row? He is on fire right now. He really is. And he's also an off-road Hall of Famer.
He just got inducted into the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, which is a really high honor. Off the line is another McMillan. This is Dan McMillan.
Dan is quite the character. He always just brightens the room whenever he walks in it, and he's running Pistol on his truck. So, you know, rest in peace, Pistol Pete. Right behind him is Luke McMillan.
This is the Mark McMillan team. Andy's a separate deal, but the Mark McMillan team we see here on the 83 truck. These are both racer-built trucks.
Next up is Bryce Menzies and his all-wheel drive machine.
The all-wheel drive is going to do incredible well here in the infield section for sure. I think in the technical sections it's going to do well.
It's a tough thing because they haven't quite perfected them. They've still had some issues with the all-wheel drive, so that's kind of a battle you choose to either want to fight or not want to fight. So it's a benefit, but then at the same time it's a double-edged sword because it's not perfected.
So this is the perfect segue to the guys who brought you this race here in the form of BJ Baldwin.
I honestly have never met more of a precise driver as him. I have a feeling that the T1 desert trucks are going to be something where a lot of people come out of the woodwork. One of those one-off races that's going to turn into a big deal because it's not just so like pre-running. You don't have a lot of pre-running time. You don't have Baja. You don't have all these other circumstances coming into play, and it's going to be the one race a year that people kind of focus on.
We have Mr. Impudia now, Mr. Pappas and Beer. These guys also race in the Lucas Oil Short Course Series, and their family is about the tightest knit group. Next up, another internationally famous figure for a lot of different reasons, but Jesse James has kind of come back to off-road racing.
Last off the line is Raul Gomez in Cameron Steele's winning Baja 1000 car.
So now we have kind of a different twist on things. We have Raul Gomez, who's a 4400 driver.
They really have quite the setup here at King of the Hammers. I feel like there's a Gomez in almost every class. So, you know, and speaking to Dave Cole, he wasn't going to even have any other classes. He's going to have one class at King of the Hammers, and now look at how it's evolved. And I feel like the Gomez's have evolved with him, and now they have a vehicle, and they're racing every day here.
In the end, Bryce Menzies proves that his all-wheel drive car has the speed to pull off a win, beating second-place qualifier Abdali Lopez by more than 26 seconds. It's a significant gap over a 20-mile prelim, and it could turn into a much more formidable lead on a 280-mile race course.
I just came around the corner a little too hot and just gone sideways and tagged a rock, got the sidewall. After that qualifying run, I'll be a lot more conservative once we get in the rocks for sure. Flat tires are costly for driving.
The morning has already seen plenty of mishaps. Drivers returned to the pits with little more than an hour to get their truck race ready. In spite of their difficulties, the quick turnaround is a part of the natural selection process. Those who have made it to the starting line have earned their spot in the main. This episode of World of X Games is brought to you by Toyo Tires and Monster Energy. The stage is set in the first ever T1 race at the King of the Hammers. If qualifying is any indication, the course will be grueling. 3 racers had serious mechanical issues during the prologue, and 2 will be unable to compete in the race itself.
The course is no joke. It's pretty treacherous out there. You know, where it's fast, it's really fast, and then where it gets slow, it's really slow and technical, a lot of rocks. So really, I think the biggest competition is actually the racetrack.
It's a 280-mile event, but right off the start, the pace is aggressive. Despite the disadvantage of being in the outside lane, Alan Ampudia makes an early pass on BJ Baldwin, claiming clean air for the time being. Jesse James, who's been on hiatus from T1 racing, is lucky to have the start line to himself. With fellow drivers unable to make the start line, he'll get to race his own race. Because the race is run on corrected time, even Tavo Vildasola, who had to overcome mechanical issues during the qualifier, has a shot at the win. Final times will be adjusted according to start position. In order to remain competitive in such a stacked class, drivers must operate at the edge of control. Outside of the race line is an opportunity to make a pass, but at the risk of losing control. For Robbie Gordon, the day is over.
This could be a capitalization for Andy to get around Bryce right here. So there he goes right there.
So right now we have Andy McMillan in the physical lead. Again, this is all on corrected time because they started two minutes apart, which is a big gap.
In order for Bryce to win, he's got to physically pass Andy and put time on him.
As the leaders return to Hammertown, Andy and Bryce bypass the main pit in physical first and second place. Luke McMillan opts to pit and is quickly passed by Abgali Lopez, who takes physical third. When Brett Serapis pits, he forfeits his position to Rob McCachran. Later, it becomes clear that it was a mechanical issue that brought him to a halt. Alternating between the 90 and 40-mile loops, racers must run each lap twice. The shorter of the 2 loops is more technical, and it's taking a serious toll. Word reaches Hammertown that Bryce Menzies is out of the race. It's a brake issue. Josh Daniels is the next to fall with a failed gear, and Eric Husted is forced to withdraw for an unknown reason. This is a tough race. Luke enter the main pit for a refuel and tires before heading out for lap 3 of 4. While Andy retains the physical lead, Luke is in fact leading on corrected time.
Check the drive shaft, 2 tires and 50 gallons of fuel. Everything's good. Truck's running good.
Abdali puts his position in jeopardy when he stops for a tire change, but a fast pit puts him just ahead of Hall of Famer Rob McCachran. As the race continues, smooth pit stops are proving to be the differentiator between breathing dust and clean air.
So we're down here. We just saw Dan McMillan come through. They did a quick splash and go, put a couple fresh tires on it. I'm with Mr. McMillan down here. How's it going? I see you all over this board checking times. How close are you? Because remember, this race is on corrected time.
All these off-road races are on corrected time, so we're having a good day. I got my 83 truck up, running second behind my nephew Andy, and then my oldest son just came through here, and I think he's 7th, maybe 5th or 6th on corrected time, so that's out of 20 trucks. If we're running 1st and 6th or something like that, we're having a great day.
The desert is claiming its victims, and attrition continues. Out of the thinning field, Cameron Steele remains a contender for the win. Close behind him is Dan McMillan. Now, Andy McMillan is forced to pull out of the race. A big disappointment for him, but he'll be hoping that his cousins Luke and Dan stay in the game. With a cracked rear axle housing, it's Cameron Steele's turn to bow out. As Dan McMillan makes the pass, Steele wishes him the best of luck. As disappointed as he may be, he knows that with these cars constantly pushed to their absolute limit, it's fast becoming a case of last man standing. Almost 2/3 of the field have dropped out. After the break, who will claim this inaugural throne in the first ever T1 desert race at the King of the Hammers? Welcome back to the final stage of the inaugural Toyo Tires Desert Invitational, presented by Monster Energy.
Traditional people always win traditional races. This is as untraditional as you can get.
Luke McMillan is in the lead, but at his furious pace, it's his race to lose.
Big rocks out there. Cold weather, I'm sure, doesn't help, and soft sand and all that's going to add up to some broken parts for sure.
Exercising caution isn't easy for the fastest desert racers in the world.
It's like riding a roller coaster and being able to control that emotion as a driver when you feel like you want to go as fast as you can to win. That's something that's hard for people to do.
Of the 20 drivers who left the line at the start, only 10 are still battling toward the finish.
You know, there's a lot of people dropping out now, so just, pick them one by one, and, everybody's trying to kill it. It's not over till it's over.
As leaders approach Hammertown to begin their 4th and final lap, 2 distinct dust clouds fill the air.
The top 3 guys are like less than 5 minutes split. I think you have like a minute 30 on corrected time.
Luke has a 4-mile lead, while Abdali attempts to fend off Rob and Justin less than a mile behind.
Now we're going to want to watch for Abdali, Rob Mack, and Justin Lofton.
Truck looks really clean. Body work looks great. It's always a good sign of how the race is going. As Luke is going past his pit.
So far, it's going pretty good. It's going the right direction, that's for sure. But long ways to go.
I'm down here in Luke McMillan's pit. He just came through absolutely blazing through. I was chatting with this crew. They were hoping he wasn't going to stop. He is not. He is physically in lead. But remember, this game is on corrected time. There's been a lot of action. I was talking to him. These guys are all business down here.
This is what it's shaping up to be right now. On corrected time, you got Luke McMillan with the lead. Obviously, he's physically first, and then on corrected time, he's first. There's Rob McCachran second, 2 minutes and 22 seconds off of Luke on corrected time. And then Justin Lofton pops into third overall, and he is 2 minutes and 54 seconds off corrected time to Luke. So there's only seconds between Rob Mack and Justin Lofton on corrected time.
Halfway through the 40-mile loop, Luke's physical lead has shrunk to less than 3 miles.
This team is built on 40 years of experience. I mean, literally, I got a couple guys out here that have been helping my family race for 30 years, and they're here today helping me. You know, since the day I was born, this is what I was born to do, is off-road race.
Dolly started in front of Luke, so that's a big thing to note. Justin Laughlin didn't, and I think I was hearing on our radio that Justin needs to finish within 2 minutes of Luke at the finish line. So I think once again it's going to come down to it. I guarantee Lofton's pushing hard right now, but I also guarantee that Luke is too.
Rob McCachran's truck can't take any more.
That is a huge feather in the cap for Luke, because he's got a good lead over Dolly.
As they battle to the end, the helicopter above is the first sign that they're minutes from Hammertown.
Like I said, the excitement in that truck, I mean, he's got to be on pins and needles right now, just anticipating his first win. This is big for him and the family. Luke McMillan will be your first finisher.
All right, Hammertown, let's bring these guys home.
Luke McMillan is the first to cross the finish line.
Luke McMillan may have just won himself $100,000 from Toyo and Monster.
He's not here yet, but I don't know. We'll know here pretty quick.
All eyes are on the clock. If Justin finishes within 2 minutes of Luke, he's won the crown.
Justin Lofton coming through the Jeep Arch as we speak.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Great run.
Thank you.
It's Luke McMillan's first ever win in this premier class. It's been a long, hard road for the youngest racer in the McMillan clan.
Roger's amazing. The team, I don't know what to say right now.
For him and his team, the last 7 years with his truck has paid off.
I'm so proud of you.
Freaking amazing. I can't believe it.
Luke's win is the newest addition to a long legacy of McMillan wins. The addition of the T1 race means the Johnson Valley Lakebed has become a hub for every discipline of desert four-wheeling. The accessibility of the UTVs, the camaraderie of the Everyman Challenge, the technology of the desert trucks, and the capability of the 4400s. With all eyes on this melting pot of potential, King of the Hammers is bringing global attention to off-road racing and driving innovation at breakneck speed. Before the Hammer Kings, rock crawlers sought to drive the toughest obstacles they could find. The T1 trucks devour the desert at maximum speed. Specialized machines with a singular purpose. Tomorrow, desert and rocks collide. There's only one breed of race car designed to conquer them both. Next time, the 4400 class takes the stage for the final showdown at the Hammers.